Welcome to Kardec Radio, where you nourish your soul daily. As you wait for our next program on the way to the light, visit Kardec Publisher at kardecpublisher.com to check out our latest books. Also, check out our Kardec Flicks, Spiritism in a Click. Just go to kardecflix.com. And now with you, our host, Angy Stewart, with the program On the Way to the Light. Enjoy it.
Good evening, my friends. This is Angy Stewart from Mia InnerLight, and we are live. Today is Thursday, and it is 9:01 p.m. Eastern Time. Super happy to be here, and I hope that you will be joining us to continue your learning process and our improvement. So, as it always happens, I like to show what we are doing, just if you were new to Kardec Radio or if you are new to this program. So we will be studying this book. It's On the Way to the Light. It's a spiritist book, and the spirit is Emmanuel, and the mediumship is from Chico Xavier. Is a Brazilian medium, extremely famous author, psychographic author of hundreds and hundreds of books. This book specifically is amazing. This book helps the scientific mind to understand a little bit more how Spiritism connects so well with science, bringing us so many answers to questions that we all have or had. So I hope you enjoy, you can participate, you can ask questions, you can make comments, and it's always better when we have your participation. I understand that a lot of our friends actually see the recording later on. Okay, it is fine, but I would love you could be online with us, joining us and asking questions and making it even more fun and interactive. So before I bring my two guests for tonight, I would like to invite you to put your water, because in Spiritism, we always do a prayer to connect with the enlightened spirits, asking for help to whatever we are going to be doing. So it will be me, but my guardian angel helping me, guiding me, as well as my guests for tonight. And all the good spirits will be with us, helping us in this beautiful study that will be opening minds of a lot of people. So just for a brief moment, close your eyes. Let's relax a little bit and do our initial prayer. God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for bringing us together online to continue our spiritual improvement, studying a little bit more about Spiritism with this beautiful book. And at this moment, we ask our guardian angels to come close to each one of us, helping us to understand, to connect with the ideas, to have the important aha moments where certain things that seem so complicated become easier. We ask also the protection and the guidance of the guardian angels of our guests, so we all together can contribute to this study to be even nicer. And at this moment, we ask that our water also to be blessed, bringing the medication to each one of us, helping us to be stronger and healthier. So be it. Very good. So I will be bringing my guest. So my first guest is Yvonne. Hello, Yvonne. How are you?
Hi, Angie. It's so good to be here again. Nice to
So
see you.
nice to see you, Yvonne. Very, very nice. I miss you.
I miss you too, but I have maybe 4 or 5 different study groups that I'm on, so it's hard
That's
to fit
great.
everything in.
That's great. You never stop. That's the
No,
thing. We
yeah.
should never stop, and this is very, very nice. So, just tell us a little bit how you discover Mia Inner Light. Just
Mia InnerLight. I was introduced to Mia InnerLight right around the pandemic. But I had been introduced to Spiritism maybe 5 years before that when I lived in Florida. And then shortly after, I moved to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So there were no centers around. So I didn't have that option. So when the pandemic happened and everything went online, I was able to connect with my Florida buddies again and was introduced to Angy. So we've been friends since then.
yeah, you see, the pandemic was a very difficult moment, but it was really something that changed the life of so many people in so many ways. As you mentioned, we all went online. And yes, we went online to connect with friends, family, to study Spiritism, but also to work. Everybody, the ones that could never leave the office, now they were working in their own home. So this was also something positive. So
Yeah,
everything is a balance.
that
So
was the only thing I regretted about retiring. I didn't take advantage. I couldn't take advantage of working from home. Oh my goodness.
but so happy to have you here, Yvonne. Thank you. Our next guest is my dear friend Marcelo. So, Marcelo, talk a little bit about you. You're mute, I think.
I am here. Thanks for inviting me. So good to see you both.
Thank you, Marcelo. Tell the group how did you arrive here? How did we meet? How did you discover me?
Mia Inner Light.
Yeah,
Oh,
honest.
I've been following Angie for a number of years, and everywhere she is, somehow we cross paths and we study together. So I'm well aware of the Miami Inner Light. And you've been doing a great work and spreading the word, and this is amazing. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Marcelo. Yes, Marcelo is very sweet. We met so many years ago in New York City, and then yes, we reconnect in Florida. Look at this. We always say the world is small for us because we are always like
Yeah,
interconnected.
I, I'm sure we're gonna see each other again in Jupiter. So
Woo!
Oh,
I
along
hope
with
so.
Jr. John John
Oh
John.
yeah, he loves
yes,
Jupiter. He's always trying to get an express bus to Jupiter.
Oh, it's a spiritist joke, people. We all want to go to Jupiter when we die.
Yes,
yeah,
we all like
Jupiter. Yeah,
aspiration.
which is kind of related to the book that you were reading here, right? Because it's all about the evolution of the worlds, and who knows? We're all gonna go to Jupiter one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes,
Oh, Is,
hopefully faster than later. So we
yeah.
have a comment here from Fast Photo. I
Is
believe
that
it's
Rivers? Is that
yeah,
Rivers? Oh,
River. So River said, "Good night, everyone." Yvonne, good to see you, my dear. River here, yay, River! Very good to have you. So, my friends, as I always do, I just want to remind you this is the book that we started the study on the way to the light. Last month we did the chapter one, So this month we are doing chapter 2. And as I always do, I read a tiny little bit of the chapter, and then my guests here start digesting the book little by little, and I will do the same. So, chapter 2, the title is Organize the Life. And the first portion that we'll be talking about is the construction of cells. Very interesting topic. So, the spirit of Emmanuel goes like this. Under the merciful, wise guidance of the Christ, numerous groups of spirit workers labored on the earth. Like modern engineering, which constructs a building foreseeing the tiniest requirements for its ultimate purpose, the artist from the spirit realm built a world of cells, initiating in primeval days the construction of the organized, intelligent forms of the centuries to come. Regarding the earlier cellular constructions, the idea of beauty was their main concern from the start. So, this sentence, when I read this sentence, I was like, I knew it, because there are so many things in the world that are so beautiful and so perfect. I always joke with my husband that God, Jesus hired the most amazing engineers, but probably amazing decorators to work together, because some things are so beautiful, like the bird. Like I live in Coconut Grove, and the bird that lives here on the streets is the peacock, and the peacock is just so beautiful. It opens those feathers. It's just like, with that blue neck. It's just like, my goodness, the colors. It's just so gorgeous. So it's beautiful for us to see. But obviously, everything works so perfect. When we talk about cells, the human body cells are so perfect. If something is too much or too little, things don't work. So this amazing balance goes from our bodies to the universe. I remember watching a lecture of Divaldo Franco where he was going into details about the universe, talking that if the sun was a little bit further from Earth, we would die frozen. If the sun was a closer, we would boil. So the perfection in everything is so amazing that it's really, for us, for me, it's impossible to think this was just like an explosion and everything went so perfect. Like, what a coincidence. And as we know in Spiritism, there are no coincidences. Even we have like the way of saying, "Oh, what a coincidence! I was thinking about you when you called." But when you study Spiritism, you know it's not coincidence. You are sending that wavelength to that person, thinking about that person, and that person captures it. Or maybe the guardian angel of that person just say, "Hey, Angie, Marcelo wants to talk to you." I'm like, Marcelo, oh, let me call him. So, my friends, what else can we start talking about at this point here? The construction of cells.
Well, one of the things that struck me about this first section, there were several things. One of them was the beauty. You know, I kind of reminisced on the word beauty. When I thought of beauty, I thought of harmony as well, because when we think of the earth and the universe in general, there's a harmony of all the planets coming together. So what this first chapter tells me is that the first signs of life on earth were not random, that Jesus had a part in it, that it was spiritually guided. And it was laborious work. I like the expression where it says it was like modern engineering, Because when you think of an engineer building a house, build a building, you can't just build the outline and think that's it. You have to go down to the tiniest detail, because if you're off, I don't know, a quarter inch or so, the building might end up sideways or so. And
Yeah,
that,
if you're not leveled, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, Marcella. And then, so same thing with the construction of cells. So you he had it had to be organized at a very microscopic point. Um, Marcelo.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to connect this section with the previous section on the previous chapter, the divine sculptor, where he talks about bringing his army of divine spirits to help and construct this. So I think this is when we see like constructions in our city or the building of a stadium, we think this is so magnificent, right? It's huge. Can you imagine the amount of work it took to build the entire planet, right? And that was designed, architected, uh, uh, founded with the beauty in mind. And it's not the beauty us being beautiful. No, this the planet was a gift to us. So let's give them a gift just so we can receive these spirits and live here and grow and evolve, right? So that's like it's a magnificent uh um build, right? It's huge.
Yes. No, it is totally true. It's totally true. Later on, we are going to be talking again about the Christs, knowing that there are many Christs. A lot of people, even spiritist people, many times they don't study deeply and they think there is only one Christ, but Christ is our Christ, our Jesus. There are many others. But imagine how Jesus, being the most elevated spirit that ever incarnated on earth, he actually created the planet for us. And the thinking about all these amazing details, like as I mentioned to you guys, I was traveling and I saw very close those gigantic mountains right coming out of the water. The water is here and then, and it's like, wow, I'm in Florida, so flat, flat. And then you go to these mountains like in Rio, but just much, much bigger, much, much taller. Everything is so beautiful. And it's like a lot of planning. It's not one thing like this. Like in the Bible, say that God created everything in 7 days. I'm like, what? Let's think about billions of years. That would be a little bit more
Yeah.
Yeah.
understanding. As we mentioned, Spiritism is very much in line with science. So we follow this, we understand it. So wonderful. So now we move on, just because of our time, too. I really want to end the chapter. We move on to the second item, and this item is Earth's first inhabitants. This is also very interesting. Very interesting. So, how do we start?
Before we go on, I just wanted, what just struck me was that, when I think of Spiritism, it's a rational faith. It's a rational faith that we have. Everything we need to understand. And so when we talk about the cell, we connect cell to biology. We can go to science and connect it that way. It's not something that we're pulling out of the air and saying, it's that's where human life starts, at the cell. So I just wanted to drop that in
Yeah.
before we go on to the second section that talks about how the Earth was encased in gelatinous matter, and from there the product the
Protoplasm.
protoplasm was used to create the cell, and they talk about it being they describe the cell as boom. Okay, Marcella, why don't you help me out here?
So
I
in the
just
beginning,
got the words.
no, that's okay. This is like, by the way, we are not scientists. Like we're just studying the book and we try to interpret things. And that's another thing about this book. And I was mentioning to Angie and Yvonne earlier that this book for me, I was always inclined to believe on a universal law. Like this whole thing of miracle, and like you mentioned, Angie, something happened, God created, and we are all here, right? But to me, never clicked. Right? I always wanted to have that. I need to have a better understanding. I cannot just be here and exist, and just so I can understand where I'm going. So I don't want to just be here and die, right? So what is the purpose of life, right? And this book was really the trigger for me to begin studying spiritism in a more serious way, because it really connected my my wish to have a faith, right, and belief, and with a religious guidance and science. And the other pillar of spiritism is the philosophy. It allows me to ask questions, right, and have this is a great format. But the the earth was just in the beginning, it was just nothing. It was just like this viscous membrane, and the sun wasn't even shining yet. So the moment that we need two elements, we need the protoplasm and we need the nucleus for a cell to begin to live, right? And that's what we had. It was prepared, this viscous membrane. When the sun and the oxygen came, the nucleus appeared, and then the living beings began to flourish.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when we study, we can all become a little bit of scientists because the way Emmanuel explained is like an easier way, even if he uses these complicated names to people that never studied science, at least a little bit deeper, but already gives us the seed of understanding. Ah, oh, so it's like that. So we
Yeah,
go
learn that in biology.
we go learning. So just a little bit that I'm going to read here that I found was very interesting is this albuminal cells. What a name, huh? Very different. And then
Hmm.
mentions the amoebas and all the isolated and the free unicellular organisms which multiply prodigiously in the tepid temperature of the oceans. So we all know that when the planet was like the fireball couldn't have life because it was too hot. But when this fire subsided and when the water of the ocean became more tepid, then the beginning of life started. So it's like the sparkle started there. So super,
And
super.
one thing about life beginning in the water, we know water is hydrogen and oxygen. So we have the basis for life from um, from the water. They couldn't have we couldn't have started on land because at that time there were so many gases in the atmosphere. Earth was still being formed. This is 4 billion years ago, or 3 to 4 billion years ago, when life form had to start in the water because that's where the oxygen existed. So
Yes.
just
The cool
Very.
thing about the water was the way to spread the life around the globe, right? Because we had this membrane all over that started navigating with the water everywhere, and then the conditions were subtle, and then uh, life start popping up everywhere on the planet. So
It is true. So we have a comment from Juan. Juan says the book is proof that spiritism and the spirits are real and valid. A poor uneducated person in a little town in Brazil could not possibly have written this book without the help of a spirit. So Juan is mentioning the medium Chico Xavier, mentioning that a very simple, humble man without even high school, he only had partial junior high school, was able to write about amoebas and about albuminous cells. It's like, what?
yes,
You can see it's not possible for him. So it had to be the action of a spirit, of a much superior spirit, to be able to give all this knowledge. Thank you so much, Juan.
yeah,
Oh,
great comment,
he
one.
was talking here. He also says Emmanuel described in 1939 beautifully the evolution of this planet with scientific fact that many years later were confirmed by scientific publications. Yes, you're
yes.
right. In the time, this book was a shock. I was like, what? Where is getting these ideas? What imagination? But much later, the scientific facts really catching up.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yes.
geology, if you go back, geology can prove it because as we know, the universe was formed uh, 14 billion years ago. Earth itself was formed 4 billion, and you can prove it through looking at the terrain, all the different strata that proves this happened at this time period and this happened at this time period. And it's in line with what Emmanuel is saying here in this book. It's just amazing. There's another book that was written by Kardec, Genesis. I don't know if you can see that. It's
Yeah,
anyway, that goes into detail also about the formation of Earth, of the universe that
yeah,
I'm glad.
operates
Yeah,
it.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was just like going, Yvonne and I, we study the Genesis together. And that was my favorite chapter or section was in part one, where it talks about the general uranography of the earth. But with the link in this was Kardec, was 1861 or 7, right?
Oh,
And
just one moment before Marcelo continues.
mhm.
So, if you are watching this live here and you are one of the scientific minds that go to Mia InnerLight, because just for you to know, I do not see your names. If you don't comment, if you don't say hi, I don't really know who is watching. But if you are one of the scientific minds that go to Mia InnerLight, this book they are going to be talking right now, Genesis, is the perfect book for you because it's very much scientific mind. So go ahead, Marcelo.
Yeah, no, it talks about the beginning of everything, and the cool thing is talks about the universal laws, right, and how everything is connected. In this case of on the way to the light, you have Jesus as the pure spirit that was giving this nebulous dust, and he controlled this solar dust in order to build a planet that was given to him by the divine intelligence to create this planet. And this is where we are right now. So after uh, billions of years containing that dust, we finally have a mass, and the planet starts cooling down, and things will start, having the water and the oxygen and things start flourishing. And the first unicell, like one cell beings, to the plants and to the
So
animals. And
you are already in the item that we are going to talk. So you continue because
I'm giving you a
now
segue because I know you want to have that way.
Yeah.
now we are talking about the patient development of forms, and that's where you are. You already saying
Right,
how
right.
it started
Yeah.
developing.
And
I can read this part. Go ahead, Yvonne.
I was just going to say the interesting thing too. It talks about, that's when the plant and animal kingdoms appeared, and here again, I'm obsessed with this oxygen and carbon dioxide thing. So plants were created first, and they flourished. That's how we have a lot of coal, and because millions of years, it became compressed. But plants take in carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen, and that's how the air was cleaned, because of the proliferation of plants providing the source of oxygen that earth needed. I mean, this is just amazing just to
It's
think about
balanced.
the
Yeah.
harmony and balance in the universe.
Yeah. And according to the plan, right? So they begin this chapter talking about the engineering and the requirements that was established. And there's the patient development of forms. After a long period of time, the primitive amoebas came together for cellular life in common, forming colonies of infusoria and polypus in accordance with the definitive building plans for the future sent from the spirit world. So this is by, not by a chance that everything was planned, everything was crafted. They
Yeah.
even mention like the tooling, Jesus and the legions of spirits start sizzling the planet, sculpturing the planet to receive us. And this is like when we pray, this is the source for us to appreciate and praise God and his missionaries to give us this gift to be here, to be able to evolve. It's
Yeah.
like so inspiring.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful how things worked. It started in the ocean, then they left the ocean, and then the development of the plants that would be able to make oxygen for us all to survive, for all the types of life. So it's all well thought, well developed, little by little, and things took their time. Later on, when we start talking about other items, we are going to see also how it was necessary to develop things. It's almost like the engineers were testing the dinosaurs. Now we have gigantic, and then like smaller. So
Yeah,
by little, things were changing to reach to the time that we would be here. So really, and this other point also talks about thousands of years were needed of Jesus' workers in the effort of a patient development of forms. So it's not like this. We think, oh, boom, that was created in one day. No, maybe 1 billion years. Certainly,
billions of years. Yeah,
and
Yeah.
uh, and thousands of years to develop what took billions of years to be created. So super interesting. Now moving on to our next item, the intermediary forms of nature. So we are moving on.
Okay.
And my friends, if you are online, if you would like to ask a question, to send a comment, please write something, because then we can see that you are here and you are following the study. We would love to have more interaction on your side. And if we don't know, we research together.
there you go. Yeah,
So in this section, it talks about how Earth's landscape changes and new forms of life emerge. And then you have creatures that are not fully, neither fully animal or human. And it was just part of the evolutionary process or the transitional stage. So both spiritually and biologically, they were prepared to serve as vessels for more advanced souls. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I got from that section.
Yeah. I'll try to bring a practical example. I'm not sure if you all have seen eggs coming out of the chicken. It comes very soft, right? It's like the placenta, right? And it's very soft. But when you dry that, it becomes hard. And this is where the we can think of like how these new uh beings they start creating become crustaceous, right? It's because now we have land and they can dry up and they can create these shells and and with the living being inside. And that was really the first group of living beings in this planet. And of
That's
course, with the land, we start getting vegetation. So that's the next part.
Yes, no, just to complement what you were saying, for the ones who haven't read the book, please purchase this book. Google, you can buy on Amazon. You can also buy the one for your phone. You can buy Audible. It is amazing. So just a little per piece that complements what you were mentioning. So it says the first dry land crustaceans were an extension of marine crustaceans, as we just mentioned. They left the ocean and now they can go to dry land. Now there is there are plants, there is air, oxygen, and then he continues. Following in their footsteps came the amphibians, which traded the waters for the firm, swampy regions. Pretty much like here in Florida,
There you go. Yes.
we have all the alligators in the swamp areas.
Yeah. So
That's how
we definitely do.
they left the water and they went to the semi-dry areas in the swampy regions. And now we are moving to a super cool portion that's
Mm.
called amazing experiments. I love this. What can we talk about these amazing experiments?
So this is where, as it says, nature became a huge workshop of gigantic experiments with the reptiles, the terrifying animals of the primitive eras appeared. So, yeah, so this was the time when you had all the mammoths and the all dactyls, the huge animals, but they became extinguished over time. And that was caused by some event that happened globally that destroyed the huge animals. And then, of course, they life came back again, but in a smaller animals. But it was part of the experimentation. Um, as it also says, rough edges were eliminated. So this is we had the blueprint in the beginning with the cells, and now we are evolving and refining um, human life, the animal and human life.
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned that because it says in the book, Christ's worker were also evaluating the prodigious combination of cellular complexes, which means that they were manipulating the cells and creating the organic structure for us to be as the final product, right? So it's kind of it was nothing like let's create Adam, and from Adam's ribs we'll make Eve, right? It was not like that. They used the universal laws available and the conditions available, so everything follows the divine code, right? Well, that's what amazed me. It's like uh, Chico Xavier, Emmanuel explaining how a high elevated spirit used the universal laws to get to this planet where it needed to be to start receiving us incarnating as a spirits. So we needed this body at this with this complexity and a perfect state for us to incarnate. That's beautiful, right?
No, it is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yeah,
And
one little thing that I just want to tag on to what Marcelo is saying in the beginning of the book. Also, one of the things that struck me, it said the cellular constructions were fashioned according to the capabilities of the Earth's environment. So everything
Mhm.
is created. The body is created in order to fit with the environment and vice versa. So those huge animals that we had that became extinct over time, they didn't fit with the blueprint. They didn't fit with what the final form was going to be. So those
But they were
were
needed, right?
they were needed for
They were
at that
needed.
time. Yes, yes.
So do you remember when telephones were this size and now it's this size, right?
Yeah,
It's the same. So
yeah,
when we control the technology and we start improving, things get smaller and smaller.
exactly.
exactly,
That's great.
exactly.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, this little portion here also is very interesting. It's the final of this title. It's like while the scorpion, the twin of the marine crustacean, has basically retained the primitive form until today. The long gone gigantic animals that came after the scorpion have disappeared forever from Earth's fauna. Although interesting vestiges of the tormented forms are housed in the world's museums. So it's wonderful because we have their bones to prove they existed. And it's like when you go to a museum, you see that gigantic animal. You're like, my goodness, this walked on earth, the same place we are walking now. And when we see how important they were, because the scientists of the spirits, they were really like taking experiments to see the best way for human beings to come in the future. It was necessary. So as you mentioned, Marcelo, we are the improved self version.
And we are still improving. So I think that that's something we can talk about in the end.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yes, we can continue to talk about that. So now we are moving on. The ancestors of human beings. This is another great point. So,
The-
Yvonne, head.
the ancestors of human beings. So in this section, they're talking about that before this, our version, the cell phone version, occurred, um, Earth was inhabited by kind of primitive, more primitive looking beings. So,
Right.
um, and those were our early ancestors before modern humanity. And so these bodies were also shaped to they were shaped by the spiritual benefactors to facilitate, I guess, the souls that we were going to receive, the type of, not that we were going to receive them. Well, we were going to be
Inhabitant
getting
or
an updated version from another planet. That's the Capella part of it, I think, which is in the future. I mean, we're not there as yet, but I think that's why, um, they were refashioned for for the for what we look like now. And remember, in the beginning, we talked about beauty and orders. So it's just the law of natural selection that was occurring at that time.
Yeah, I think as humans, we have this natural desire to connect our species with a different species, like the chimpanzees, and oh, like they look like us. They have legs and arms, and they stand, and they have these facial expressions. So we naturally will connect with them. We're not going to connect with the crocodile in the Everglades, right? So because it doesn't look like us, but that's part of the evolutionary organization of these complex cells coming together and being preparing that. It comes to a point that we we are finally close to this species where we can be incarnated in. So I think that's the shift that comes in, the click that comes in that separates what is animal and what is human, right? And I think the spirits book talks about that and how the cell, the spirits evolve, and the animals carry a fragmented spirit and intelligence throughout these evolution. But us, we have the free will. We have a full uh, f- spirit with the free will, and we incarnated in a perfect body that was evolved through these complex organizations.
Exactly. And one of the things that we always talk in the Spiritist Center is because everybody wants to know exactly when is the transition from animal to human. But the spirits, they even said that this is not possible for us to understand yet. There is a transition there, but we don't know exactly when and how. But as you mentioned, the sparkle is there. We transition, not mentioning that the humanoid that lived on Earth became a human being here, because we don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
this spirit had to go to another planet and Earth received the more evolved ones. We don't know exactly when is the transition, but we know it is there, is in this way. We are very close to understand. There is a point here that I want to read again, when it mentions these anthropoids were the ancestors of both human beings and modern day apes, and were the common point in their evolution. Hence, the serological kinship between the body of modern humans and that of chimpanzees. So, as you mentioned, Marcelo, human bodies and chimpanzees, they are similar. They are not the same, but they are very similar. And we connect with them. The stereotype, arms, legs, the face, different than an
right.
alligator, for example. But it's important for us to understand that the animals, they have a spiritual principle, and that they go
Exactly.
instinct, intelligence. They also have intelligence, but they go in instinct. And human beings, they have free will, so they make their decisions. So this is the point they transition. So super, super cool. Now we are moving to the final part of this amazing book, The Great Transition. This is the final item of this chapter. So, what can we talk about the Great Transition?
This is fascinating because in this part, they talk about how the spirits begin forming the body, right? And it was like about molding the body. All right, so we got the species. This species, we can work with that, and we can let's make sure that everything's working, and you have the digestive system. You have the legs. You can coordinate. Now we need to work on your brains. Let's start shaping that brain in a way that you can have coordination. So that's where the spirits began forming us calibrating, fine tuning our body, our cognitive responses in order to receive the spirits.
Super cool. Yvonne, anything you want to complete?
Just one sentence that stood out that says, the reality, however, is that spirit entities aided these Stone Age humans by imprinting them with new biological characteristics.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the spirit's imprinting in this body.
Right.
Right.
So
this is I'm gonna mention another book here, which Yvonne and I we studied that book on Sundays, The Planetary Transition, by Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, channeled through Divaldo Franco. And on that book, it talks about how we are already receiving high number, millions of highly evolved spirits from other planets, and that will need our composition will need to change, and it's already changing to start receiving those spirits. So you can see how the same way that Emmanuel mentions that the spirits were imprinting their form in order to receive our spirits or the spirits from Capella, right? We are now undergoing that imprinting, fine tuning to receive higher spirits from even higher worlds.
Yes.
When I reread this today, I said, that makes sense.
Yes. And it makes sense when a lot of people are mentioning, but these kids of nowadays, they are so much more intelligent than what we were.
Yeah.
And it is true because they are.
Yeah.
They are more intelligent than us.
We don't need to have egg hats. Some of us have egg hats, right?
The ship's already installed.
Right.
And yes, as we already have, like when we think in, that's why the spirits mention the evolution of the intellectuality goes much faster than the morality. If we can compare 30 years ago, in my generation, 30-40 years ago, when you think of many things, like for example, the phones, cell phones didn't exist. We had a phone in the house, and there was a big phone connected to the wall, and you had to put your finger and rotate. Many times I see on Facebook, on YouTube, hilarious videos of kids of nowadays. They are giving an old phone connected to the wall, and someone telling, okay, call your mom. Don't even know how to call because they don't even know the number. The number is already memorized. And when you think like, my goodness, I used that. And my son never even saw that in his grandparents' house, but never used that. And how it evolved. And in the past, the TVs were gigantic. They were super heavy, big. Now it's a little flat screen that you glue to the wall, and you can connect to internet. And right now, go to the computer. We can see each other. When 30 years ago, we thought we could talk to people through a machine, we would just thought it would be impossible. So you see how intellectuality, how it goes so quickly, how all this science, the scientific points to man can apply to technology goes so quickly, but morality doesn't go as fast. As we know, lots of horrible things that happened in the past are still happening in certain portions of earth. Of course, we already improved so much. Women have rights, we can vote, we can work, we can do anything. And a few years ago, it was not possible. But sometimes horrible crimes that happen are still happening nowadays. So you still see that the morality goes slower. But one day we will have both in the same height, and that's when we are going to be more evolved spirit. And when we were talking about the kids coming nowadays, we know that most of them are extremely intelligent, but parents, be prepared. They are challenging, and that's why we are parents, because we have to guide them, we have to help them, we have to cut the sharp edges, because just because they are super intelligent doesn't mean they are all morally evolved. We have to help them to get these teachings based on their parents, seeing what the parents are doing, and then we help this extremely intelligent new generation to evolve faster, more in moral terms too. So this is beautiful, my friends. This book is so beautiful. I would love to continue talking and talking about it. It's really
Fair
like
enough.
it's a blessing in our lives. It's really a blessing. But now we have to move on to this book here. So, what is Spiritism? Is a free book from Kardec that very few people know about it, and we are already in almost finishing. Look, we are almost finishing, just a little bit. I have been studying for 2 years, little by little. And today we are going to be studying about the consequences of Spiritism. So, just a little summary, and we are going to be reading and summarizing. So, I would like to invite you, Yvonne, to read a little bit, and then Marcelo can comment, and then we can switch.
Okay. 100. In light of the uncertainty concerning revelations made by spirits, one might ask, so what good is the study of Spiritism after all? It is useful to materially prove the existence of the spirit world. Since the spirit world is composed of the souls of those who used to live on earth, it proves the soul's existence and the survival of the body. The souls who manifest reveal their joys and their sufferings according to the way their earthly life was lived, which thus proves the notion of future rewards and punishments.
So let me just put the other portion here in yellow. You can continue.
Okay, let us imagine that a 20-year-old man is certain that he will die at 25. What will he do during those 5 years? Will he labor for the future? Surely not. He will make every effort to enjoy himself to the utmost and would think it wrong to impose meaningless fatigue and privation on himself. However, if he's certain that he's going to live to be 80, he will act otherwise because he will understand the need to sacrifice a few moments of repose in the present to ensure repose in the future for several years. The same would be the case for anyone for whom the future life is an uncertainty. Doubt about the future life naturally leads people to yield completely to the pleasures of the present, hence the excessive importance given to material wealth.
So, Marcelo, what did you understand of this portion? Very
So
interesting, actually.
yeah. So what brings to mind is like this notion that we hear in the new generation about YOLO. YOLO, you only live once, right? So if we only live once, why care, right? Why respect others? Why even be good? You only live once. Let's live to the fullest, right? So this to me is where that we need to understand. The interesting part is that even if you have a different thinking of I'm just gonna live to the fullest, your mind, when you lay down, it doesn't make you peaceful. Right? You always question, am I doing the right thing? So that code that questions you, are you doing the right thing? That leads you to this text over here, right?
Yeah.
To think you are not here only once, right? You're not only gonna live 5 years. You really need to think about how to evolve as a spirit, not as a human.
Totally agree. And this is how Spiritism helps us so much, because it gives us this reassurance that we don't live once, we live many times. And when
Times.
the physical body dies, the spirit lives and lives forever.
Yeah,
And we
and
have plenty of examples. Yeah.
yeah, and
Go ahead.
spiritism um, gives us a certainty, not, not that you're going to question it. It's you're certain about it. It's not that you believe or you hope, you know for sure.
Yes,
With
exactly.
spiritism.
Exactly, especially in the spiritist centers that we have the mediumship programs where spirits come to talk about how they woke up in the other side of the life. And many times they come telling how the problems were on earth, and many times how the problems continue there, and how they have to continue studying and improving and working. So I remember when I was not a spiritist when I was younger. I only became spiritist when I moved to the US 25 years ago. And then I remember I had a boyfriend who was a spiritist, and he used to talk about when he died, he has to work, he will teach, he will do this and that. And I used to laugh, and I used to tell him, "Are you kidding me? You really believe in this?" And he's like, "Of course. What do you believe?" I'm like, "Oh, I believe that when I die, I will choose whatever I want to do." And then he's like, "Okay, so what you want to do?" "Oh, I want to go to the beach." I was 18. I remember he looked at me and he said, "And that's what you want for the rest of your life?" And I was like, and he's like, "Okay." I think at that moment I destroy our relationship. So
and
that I kept thinking, my God, why he's so serious? He really believes that we need to continue working. But it is amazing. We need, it seems like we need the time to be mature, also to understand certain things from the spirit. And yes, there are people that are already born very mature and are ready with this knowledge or with this thirst for spiritual knowledge. But I needed time to digest little by little, slowly. And thank God I finally learned that to be at the beach forever would be super boring. Ay, ay. So, my friends, let's see. Let's read just this little portion here. Marcelo, can you just read this final
of
line?
course, without the future life, the present one is of crucial importance to people, the sole object of their concerns, and they relate everything to it. That is why they want at any price to enjoy not only material wealth, but honors. They aspire to stand out, to rise above others, and to eclipse their neighbors by means of ostentation and status. Hence, the unbridled ambition and importance they give to titles, and all the futilities of self-centeredness, for which they would sacrifice even their honor. because they see nothing else beyond it. That's
Yes.
sad. Right.
Exactly. So this is how people that don't understand about the continuation of life, they live like this. They live for the moment. But in the next month, we are going to continue with the explanation that understanding, knowing there is a future life, our aspects will change. Little by little, we start understanding the importance. It's not really focused on the material things, what we have, what we can show off to people, but are so many other things that we will carry on with us beyond this physical body and this opportunity that we are living now, because we will have so many others to continue improving forever until what Marcelo, you were mentioning, that we will improve from this physical body, and one day we will become angels, elevated spirits. Right now I'm Angela, but that's my name.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Just like a billion years in distance, but one day we will be there.
Yeah, what is time?
Yeah. We have all, we're immortal. So
There you go.
My friends, thank you so much. It was awesome. My friends that are watching us, I hope you had enjoyed. If you are listening to us recorded, we are always here in Kardec Radio on the first Thursday of the month. This month, exceptionally, I did on the second because I was traveling on vacation last week. It was my birthday, so I deserved. But
oh,
next
Mhm.
month, we are going to be back in the first Thursday of the month. And I hope you can join us again. My friends, it was a blessing having you here. And I would like to invite Marcelo to do our final prayer.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Divine intelligence, source of all life and harmony. We thank you for the universal laws that guide the cosmos in wisdom and justice. We offer our deepest gratitude to the benevolent spiritual guides that help us through and work through billions of years to prepare this bed for us to evolve morally and intellectually. May we enjoy our next month. May all come together again the first Thursday of the month with our angels. So be it.
So be
so
it.
be it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you so much, Marcelo. It was a
Thank
real
you.
pleasure. And to
Thank you.
all of you watching us, I hope you had as much fun as we had here.
I had a lot of fun.
Yes, we did.
Thank you, my
Good seeing
friend.
you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I see you all next month. Have a great evening. Thank you.